Hey friends and welcome. This is Dr. Heather here live from Ask Dr. Heather. I am checking back in with you guys as promised. Dr. Deb is not here yet. She'll be back here shortly. She is still at Hacking Better. I jumped out a few minutes early as promised. I wanted to get to your questions. You guys did an awesome job asking questions. We took a lot of notes for you all today. So I know we're not going to cover it all, but so I don't know if that's just how the mojo went, but the speakers that talked today hit on a lot of your questions. So most of the questions, adrenal fatigue, somebody asked about a blood meter. We had post-concussion syndrome, PTSD, anxiety. We had dementia, Alzheimer's, insomnia. All of those things were actually touched on today. So I'm going to be brief on these subjects because you can see from my notes that I took a lot of notes on every speaker. So we could be here all day as we were there all day. We've been there probably a good 10 hours talking. We had one little small break from like 3 to 4:30. But I do want to touch on a couple things because Prove It also did just launch a great promo on MCTO, which we all talked about. So it's just some of the amazing speakers we had. We started off the day with Dr. Angela Poff. Then we heard from Dr. Andrea Campitelli. Then we heard from Dr. Lillian Pardolci. Darva, I don't say her name correctly, and we heard from Dr. Ken Ford. So really what the common theme was is that what we keep hearing is that the more we dive into this conversation, because 5 years ago it was about the keto conversation and making assumptions on the keto conversation, assuming that the exogenous ketones were doing the similar things in the body. Well, now research 5 years later is showing exactly what we assumed it would do and actually much more. So what we do know about broken brains, and the quote I put up there is 1.3 to 1.4 billion broken brains. Those are just some of the summaries that you're seeing when you search Dr. Google and you hear from some of the other leading thought leaders. That wasn't a quote from today, just so you know. And know that what we do know is that when the brain gets damaged, and being a mom boy, if I was at home, I would take a big cardboard and put a whole bunch of Lego, I would put Hot Wheel cars right through here. Hot Wheel cars, and some of them might turn upside down like they had gotten wrecked. And if they were wrecked, then it means that they didn't have any fuel and they couldn't go anywhere, and I could give the other ones that could go maybe some glucose, and when they got glucose they could just run around and serve the brain, and the other ones that had gotten wrecked couldn't go. They have to go to the junkyard. Now what we know, and this is through a lot of Dr. Stephen Cunnane information, that those little cells, those Hot Wheel cars that are acting like little cells, now we know that if we give them ketones, not glucose but ketones, that they can actually regenerate and they can start moving again and function again. And his studies, up to 100% of those cells that we once thought were damaged through a broken brain, whether it's Alzheimer's, dementia, CTE, you bumped your head in a car wreck, you bumped your head and fell down the stairs when you're a little kiddo, you played soccer, hockey, lacrosse, whatever that might be, where there's been some plaquing or other things happening in your brain where we thought, you know what, this is not a case, this is going to be a progressive disease, we're just going to continue to see things decline. Now we're hearing from leading researchers in laboratory that we're seeing that there's some, in situations we're actually seeing some reversal of these symptoms, and we're seeing an increase in cognition, not a decline, because now what they're finding that what's really happening in all of those, whatever letters you choose, whether it's PTSD, ADD, ADHD, CTE, whatever those letters are that you start to choose, they all have the common theme. The energy system, the glucose transportation system, how we get energy to the brain, is that it's impaired. Think of it like a highway. We just can't get the energy up there. But now what we do know is that there's still the capability, 100% of the capability, the ketone energy can still get up there. And we're seeing this on a lot of amazing scans. Dr. Lillian uses some really cutting edge imaging tools in her office. I can't remember the big long name of it, but she uses some cutting edge imaging through some different radiology at Massachusetts General to show exactly what's happening inside that brain with exogenous ketones, with the ketogenic diet, and with some other things that you just can't challenge. I mean, the radiology is not lying to us. Time and time again, she was able to replicate that. I think that's exciting. It's giving people hope. If you're a family out there or have had somebody, seen someone who's gone through, whether it's traumatic brain injury or a family who's gone through and suffered through Alzheimer's, or maybe you're just a person thinking yourself, gosh, I can't remember where I parked my car and where did I put my keys, and I thought I had my coupon, and where's my room key? Like you're having those little brain bubbles happening to you. Now we know that they really should start doing some brain health prevention really at the age of 25, so on. And then there was also a study that we saw that decline starts to happen very hallmarkly at the age of 47. And between the age of 47 is when we start to see there's some instability happening. We hear all the time insulin resistance is what's causing obesity, and with insulin resistance, people have a hard time getting into ketosis because the liver is incapable because of insulin resistance to go down and break down that fat. So that's why people with insulin resistance have a hard time at losing weight. She's also showing us, Dr. Lillian, that with insulin resistance, it's actually happening also in the neurons. So what happens there is that there's some instability or some degradation happening, and that started to happen at the age of 47, and then it very bluntly stops at the age of 72. So whatever degradation has happened by 72, it just kind of halts there, and there's a stable mechanism that happens. So if you're over 47, 72, or you're not 47 yet, you really gonna want to pump that on. And that's where she really said, and Dr. Mary Newport said, anywhere from 2 to 3 tablespoons of MCT oil is really gonna be very beneficial to be prophylactic for brain health. And then again, Dr. Mary Newport went into just start cleaning up the diet, eating real whole food, stop the processed food, ditch the drive-through stuff, do adequate amounts of clean, grass-fed, local proteins if you can, eat organic vegetables when and if you can, limit your grains. Rice and corn really break down to almost 90% sugar. Everyone's really saying the same thing with a little bit different flair because they all have a little bit different specialty, but the theme was all the same, is that what we do know is the brain is the most important organ. It has signals the rest of the body. We want that signaling capability to happen. And Dr. Lillian did a great presentation. She just kind of held hands with people. Well, we know what happens. We talk about signaling and neurons happening is that they just touch each other and they give information. And what happens is when they start to lose a signaling capability, there's just nothing with this gap that gets through and they get pulled farther apart, and then the information is not getting sent. But when we actually see them start regenerating, the information gets sent and it gets passed along the way. And that's what we want to see happen when we see that reversal of that insulin resistance happening inside the brain. We also see that ketones start to stabilize that neuronal insulin stability or resistance. So that was really, really exciting. And we always hear great information from Dr. Ford. You know, like he likes lots of good hacks like infrared sauna and chocolate, the benefits of having the right type of coffee. He always likes to talk about oxytocin, as I do too, but so we'll maybe touch on that a little bit later. But I just know based on this page, we had people asking about adrenal fatigue. You know, the adrenals are the engine for our body. So when we start talking about signaling, like with our hands there, the hypothalamus tells pituitary what to do. Pituitary signals the adrenal through the adrenal corticotropin hormone. You know, the pituitary also tells the other releasing hormones what to do. So yes, it's still the same important thing. The signaling has to happen in the brain to the rest of the body. And all the researchers are saying the same thing, is that ketones are that preferred fuel source. It has more oxygen, it's an easier uptake, it's an easier transportation system. Glucose really isn't always the optimal one because sometimes it just isn't uptaked. It's hard time getting it into the cell, which is really, really exciting. You know, and every researcher said, you know, our bodies were meant to be fasting. There's a period of time where our bodies should be fasting, and that's where that autophagy happens. We won't go into autophagy tonight. And then I would say everybody, again, across the board, sleeping is that secret weapon where everything happens. We have to get into that deep sleep. When we get into that deep sleep, that's when we do our house cleaning, kind of the magic fairy comes. So when you get into that deep, deep sleep, that's where our body starts to reorganize those networks in our brain, does all that house cleaning in there. Those neurons start to get swept up and cleaned up, get rid of the old ones that kind of got dead and broken up or tangled or start to decay away or brittle, get those all cleaned up and swept away. But things that happen even as kids start to grow, there's something called pruning that happens. So you kind of like prune your bushes so they start to grow and branch a little bit more. If they're not getting into that deep sleep, those things don't happen. The house cleaning doesn't happen. The reorganization doesn't happen. The pruning doesn't happen. Then we start seeing these amyloids and these tau and all this other stuff building up in the brain. And then we see this, you know, chaotic organization happening in the brain. Hence, we start seeing children with anxiety and insomnia and things like ADD and ADHD and other letter things start happening. So we know that we can drink ketones that calm down the nervous system and or the ketogenic diet. We can start to talk about GABA, which is our feel-good neurotransmitter, which also helps calm down the body, which takes away cravings. That kind of seems like a no-brainer. It seems like a really easy choice to make. I know it's hard sometimes, the ding-dongs, the ho-hos are there. But when you start getting behind that research, research and saying, you know what, this seems like the right choice, because across the board, even though they're all from different fields, different around the globe, someone from Dublin, we're hearing people from all over the globe saying the same thing, that this is what we need to be doing to really help save our children and save our own brains, no matter what age you are, that we need to actually start moving forward in that place. And it's very exciting, because oftentimes you go to this convention, then there's a little tug of war that this person's, I'm going to really say, I'm going to validate what they're saying, but I kind of want to contradict. And we didn't hear any of that. Everyone was just saying, well, I'm going to reiterate what they say. I'm going to piggyback on what they said, which was really, really exciting. And they all said the same thing. It's about that adaptation, recovery, reconditioning, and redaption. And just repeat that cycle. I'll talk slower. We're all tired. Dr. Deb's like, we're calling for bed. But I promised you that we would pop on here and talk about this tonight. So we talk about that. It is about, you have your body perform your day-to-day job, and then you need to have it recovery. Well, that requires sleeping, right? And you need to condition your body to sleep and recover. And then that's where that adaptation phase happens. And then when you wake up again, you're going to ask your body to perform. How do your body performs is based on how you slept, right? That rest and recovery. And then how you feed your body. That fuel that you give your body is going to based on your performance. Just like your dog, or just like your car, based on the fuel that you give it. It's the exact same thing. I talk about hair all the time, because I get a lot of people on YouTube videos looking at my hair videos about talking about how to grow healthy hair and healthy fingernails, that if you give your body poor vitamins, and you use cheap shampoo, and use things like break your hair apart, and don't eat healthy proteins, then that's what's going to happen, the end result. Or same thing with skin, the same thing's happening on the inside, because health really does begin on the inside. Oftentimes we make the assumption that we prejudge on the outside, but health and fitness are not the same at all. And we heard that really from Brandon Egan today, not Brandon Egan. We heard that from Josh Perry today, which is an amazing story. Look him up on Instagram if you haven't. We'll hear more about that tomorrow. But we also heard a lot about, and I'm concerned about anti-aging. I'm over the age of 50, really about muscle preservation. I think anybody over the age of 25 is worried about muscle preservation, especially women. We want to age slower. We want to be stronger. We want to be fit, because strong is the new whatever, right? Dr. Deb left. I think she's getting ready to put her jammies on. I'm right behind her. But I did want to just touch base with you and let you know that, everything we've been saying is getting supported year after year. The information's coming out. It's piling out. I couldn't write down all of the citations as fast as they were doing that. I was trying to have one person take a citation. I was taking a citation, which is where everything was coming from. But what we do know is that beta-hydroxybutyrate, that's one of the 3 ketone body, helps produce GABA. GABA, again, is our feel-good hormone. It's what takes away cravings. We also know that GABA increase in ketones actually helps decrease stress, or helps manage stress, because it calms down our fight or flight hormones. We also know that when we increase beta-hydroxybutyrate, increases autophagy, which cleans out our old dead cells. So that's why you see people who've been on a ketogenic diet and or drinking exogenous ketones, and the one that is bioidentical to our body, the right exogenous ketones. We heard a lot about racemic mixtures and the ones that are not the right one, that our body does not absorb, that you see people kind of anti-aging, or see people putting collagen, or we have a broth infused with ketones that has leucine in there. We heard a lot about how important leucine, the amino acid leucine is, plus the collagen, the B vitamins, the other minerals with that, because those electrolytes are so important in that signaling process that the ketones do. So I'm a little bit off target for you guys, but yes, we did talk about adrenals, because adrenals are the engine for our body. And then what do we need to give our engine? We need to give them a very good fuel source. And I do apologize, I'm talking fast. This is my tired talk fast and my excited talk fast. And again, I have lots of notes for you all. So I will do a follow-up next week. I'll try to organize some stuff on the plane, but it is so exciting. And we talked about epigenetics, and we talked about how important fasting was to increase that autophagy and increase that signaling. Think about fasting just like cleaning off your desktop or cleaning out your closet. When you clean things out, everything becomes more clear. Or like when you clean out your refrigerator or your condiments, everything becomes more clear of what you can make and what you can do and how more efficient you can be. That's the same thing that happens with your body. When you stop eating 17 hours a day and you go down to eating just 6 hours a day, or you do one 24-hour fast, again, check with your medical provider before starting any diet or doing any fast. When you stop doing that and let your body kind of rest, let your mitochondria start cleaning out some of the old debris and junk, then things come to be very clear. be very clear means I can figure out that I'm actually thirsty. Or I'm going to figure out that I'm actually tired. I'm just not having a carb crash. I'm truly tired. Or I'm going to become very clear that I'm actually hungry right now. It has nothing to do with a craving. I'm truly hungry right now. And that's what happens when you start clearing out all that debris and you go back to eating real whole food, moderate amounts of clean protein, eating in an 8 to 10 hour window, and then doing that 24-hour fast we talk about, doing that reboot once a month. That's really what resets and makes things very clear, because we're living in such a fast, overstimulated world that's really hard to tell. Are we thirsty? Are we hungry? Do we have to go to the bathroom? Am I sleepy? Am I tired? Or I tell people, are we hangry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Or what's happening? That's what life is. And so to slow that down, to eat like our ancestors, like a caveman, why would we do that? Because some of the biology is still the same. It still takes 40 weeks to make a baby back then. It still takes 40 weeks to make a baby now. We still have 2 eyeballs, 2 hands, 2 feet. That's still the same anatomy that we have. We still have the same organ system. That is all the same. What has changed is our brain has gotten smaller. We are eating differently. Obesity is on the rise. Our bone density has gone down. There's some things that have changed that are not for the better. So we need to take a hold of that and go back to the basics of what we did do that we knew that was right. We got a little confused in the 80s, and now we need to go back to the basics. And that's really what we're trying to share here, spending a lot of money in science to figure out what went wrong, and that we're all involved in a really bad experiment. But I'm going to close out with that. Did you get good sleep? How do you, if you have severe insomnia? So Harriet, we'll talk a little bit more on that tomorrow. I do have a YouTube video on Ask Dr. Heather. It is called Sleep Hygiene. It talks about insomnia, but when you talk about GABA again calms down our parasympathetic nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system overstimulates that. We talk about that a lot, about how you have to calm that down. So check that out, and that may give you some clarity. It's just, YouTube channel is just Ask Dr. Heather. It's free. It's not very, I just post it on there. So it's super simple. That may give you some clarity on that. So I do talk about GABA and about how it calms down our nervous system. And that's again how ketones increase recall, increase cognition, is because when you're slowing it down, getting more oxygen, you remember better, your recall's better, you actually start breathing deeper, and then that's why people actually get better sleep, because you can calm it down. So drinking some ketones, or doing a little bit, maybe you're on a ketogenic diet, doing some exercise, some deep breathing. I like the Wim Hof breathing style, or some belly breathing before you go to bed, just to, let your body sleep. Lower your temperature in your room 5 degrees, your bedroom 5 degrees will also help you sleep. Or get a cooling mat, make everything really dark, because in the presence of darkness, your brain naturally makes melatonin. You don't have to take it. Anyway, I'm off target now. I just want to address the questions that you all had asked last night. Keep dropping your questions down below. We got a day tomorrow to ask questions, and we will hit that hard for you all tomorrow. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks for your time. If somebody was that was interested, ask questions last night and missed this tonight because it is late and we got to go to bed to get our brain to sleep, drop it down below so we can get those questions answered for you, because we still have more great information coming to you. This is Dr. Heather live from Ask Dr. Heather in Louisville, Kentucky, from the Palace in Louisville, Kentucky. Let us know where you're watching from. I know we have people from all over the world here. We have Germany and London and England and Hong Kong, Asia, Taiwan, Taipei. I don't know. I think everywhere. New South Wales, Kansas, other places. Anyway, let us know where you're watching from. You guys have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.